Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, and you
Awesome.
apparently can hear me, so all is
Yes.
well.
Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Jay Roosevelt, do you go? I just noticed I was peeping your SoundCloud, and I noticed your name is Jenna. So,
Yes, that is my name.
all right. It's nice to find somebody's real name because I was like, okay, Jay Roosevelt. She go by Jay, Jenna. Um, awesome. Look at your setup there. So cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of native instruments.
Nice. And you
Yeah.
you have sunlight. I'm on the East Coast. I have no more sunlight. So,
Oh no, yeah, I'm in LA, so
oh, you're like in the right place for music.
yeah. Yeah, I actually grew up here, so
That's awesome.
uh-huh.
That's so cool. Well, thank you for talking to me today. I'm psyched that this ended up happening because you weren't on my radar. Because as I tell people, there are so many people out there in the world. It's hard to know everybody. And when I was alerted to your Instagram and I started checking out your beats and stuff and seeing like your SoundCloud and your Spotify and everything, I was like, oh my God, look at this. You're like making like awesome stuff. I mean, I dig the vibe. So I'm excited to talk to you about it and for you to share your story and how you got there. Um, so if you want to just start by like talking a little bit about yourself, like what you're doing like right now musically,
Mhm.
uh, that'd be a cool way to start out.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I grew up like playing every instrument I could get my hands on since like a really early age. My first instrument was like clarinet when I was like 8. But I started playing drums when I was like 10. Played like in every single like musical band, like high school, like marching band, concert band, jazz band, just like any way I could get music in, I did that as a kid. And then I went to college for something totally not music related. So that's when I kind of switched gears to be more of like a computer musician, right? Because I was like confined to my dorm room and I no longer had access to all these
Yeah.
instruments. It's kind of like you make do with what you have. And I had GarageBand on my laptop as, like a college freshman. So I just started like tinkering around. From there, I ended up graduating to Ableton, and I've been using Ableton, I want to say like 14 years now.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, I know Ableton like the back of my hand now, which is awesome because like nowadays you could learn anything on YouTube. So like I didn't go to school for music production, but I feel like just you could really become like an expert in it, just self-taught, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I from learning Ableton, I did a lot of collaboration with someone that I grew up with. Like I knew them since preschool. Their name's Lee Bealey. Actually, they go by Glory Days now. But that's the singer from Subtract and Divide, which is like one of my favorite songs I've ever put out.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and then from there, I was also doing like instrumental hip hop, like kind of like beats, lo-fi beats, but it was like before lo-fi beats were a thing.
Yeah.
I want to say like 3.5 years ago on SoundCloud, it was like this like super small community. It was like
Mhm.
the only people that listened to it were like other producers. And I guess, got kind of lucky that that genre ended up blowing up. So I just re-released a bunch of my old beats and it did well. But I don't want to like be pigeonholed as a lo-fi artist.
Right.
I actually have hopefully two kind of mainstream hip hop commercial placements coming out this
Oh,
summer.
awesome.
I don't want to say who the artist is because
Yeah.
it's
You
not
just don't
legit
know.
yet.
Yep.
But yeah, so like I'm definitely trying to branch out. And in the meantime, I've been taking piano lessons for like 2 years, which has like really opened up my musical world. So I'm hoping to like kind of get back into the like vocalist collaboration world soon.
So are you doing music full time right now? Is that
No,
okay?
I have a full-time job that's like completely not music.
Okay.
But luckily like I have pretty like flexible hours, so it allows me to do both.
That's nice.
Um, and honestly, like I tried to do full-time music and the pressure of like having to eat from your art, like it works for some people, it didn't work for me. And
Right.
it's funny, like ever since I got a full-time job, like my music's been doing way better than it ever did before. So it's just one of those things that like kind of works out that way.
That's awesome. Now you talk so like talking about these placements, like not talking about them, but like was that like people found your music through Spotify or through SoundCloud, or was it like networking and connections that you've made being in LA and collabing with other people? Just curious.
Yeah. So actually it was via Twitter.
Oh,
It
nice.
was like an artist who I had seen live and I really
Hmm.
liked. And they posted, like I've seen this, a lot of artists do this on Twitter, like, hey, send beats, and like they posted
Okay.
them out. So it's kind of like just like a blind shot, and I happen to have some like, beats in that genre. They were looking for like chill R&B beats. Um,
Nice.
and so I sent like a private SoundCloud link.
Yeah.
Um, and so from there, I guess that person like checked out my SoundCloud and they're like, hey, I love this beat, like would love to use it. And then so I ended up
Nice.
like kind of developing a relationship that way. And
Uh-huh.
so I've sent like at least 10 beats. And
Nice.
I think 2 of them are gonna make the album. So
That's awesome. That is so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like, because you don't, I mean, you hear some stories like that, and everybody obviously has like the dream to be like, oh yeah, I want to get a big placement. But the truth is, like, if you look back, like your SoundCloud is like at least like almost 4 years old. Like you have been chugging along and like getting better at your craft for like a while now. Like you said, you've been doing Ableton for 14 years. So I mean, that's awesome that it's sort of like comes to the point where like lo-fi is this big thing now. You're getting the
Yeah,
plays on Spotify. I saw you have like a lot of monthly listeners. I was like,
I
oh,
know.
awesome.
I know.
Um, that's really like you must be so excited like right now. I mean, it seems like it's a really exhilarating point in your musical journey.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, like ever since I kind of was like, I took the pressure off myself, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's just like my dreams are like far exceeded. Like I never expected to have that kind of play on like an instrumental beat. So
That's so cool. What
just
and you said so like you use a lot of native instruments and I've seen you using Machina, and so is that your main vehicle for creating beats, or tell us a little bit of, like about your process or what you like to use.
yeah, I think for me my process is it has to be different every single time. Like I never start from the same place. Like but I do use a lot of Machina for like um for sequencing, drums especially. And I really like the new like audio looping feature, like because I've been using Machine, like I had a MK1 like before I had the micro.
Uh-huh.
So I've used it for a while. So I love the software for beats. But I think in terms of samples, like I use a lot of splice samples.
Okay.
And then like once I have like a drum beat, like I always go into Ableton. Like I have to arrange in Ableton.
Okay.
Um, I use clip view a lot because I like being able to like I'll have like 5 chord progressions and 10 different drum beats and like try out different combinations.
Hmm.
So clip view is really cool. And then I think one thing I really like doing is combining different project files, right? So like 2 things I made at like 2 completely different times that I wouldn't necessarily think like can combine. Like sometimes it's not in the right key. I'll just like pitch it down 5 semitones. I really like combining unexpected elements because that you create a lot of happy accidents that way.
What I'd be so curious, like if you can just like a few minutes about like your workflow going from, I said machina. I always say machine, but for some
Yeah,
reason today I
I don't
said
know what
machina. I'm
you're
like I felt like I should like say the right like term. I don't know why I said that. But anyway, I usually just call it machine. But so like your workflow, if you're creating beats in there and then you're exporting your stems to arrange in Ableton, like I don't know, I'd just be curious if you can like dig into that like a little bit more, because like I just feel like I've been really enjoying working in machine, but it's there, I find certain limitations in arranging a machine, even though I do like putting the blocks together. I mean, there's certain limitations that it's not a linear DAW, and I'm
Mhm,
just curious to hear like what your workflow is once you've created a sketch in machine.
mhm. Yeah, so I like the drag and drop feature, but I don't really use it.
Okay.
Do in Ableton is like my default track that I have set up. So like if I just do Command T for a new audio track, I have the input set to external resampling.
Okay.
And so I have all my key commands set up like customized, so like I could just really quickly resample so I'll solo machine, solo whatever in machine that I want
Mm-hmm.
to be in Ableton, and then I just create a new track, resample it really quickly, and then
And
I
why
use,
don't
sorry, I just muted in machine after that. So
And why don't you like the drag and drop? Like out of curiosity, I mean, because you can either, for anyone who maybe isn't familiar or they're new to machine, you can either drag and drop. I mean, MIDI if you just want the MIDI, or you can drag and drop audio. And I'm just curious, like, why
yeah,
you don't
I
like
don't
it?
I don't know why for some reason, like you know how you have to keep it held down.
Yeah.
For some reason I've accidentally like unheld it and it crashes my project file. It's
Okay.
happened a few times. So that's pretty much the only reason why I avoid it. And then also like there's times where I want like maybe sounds from two groups
Mm-hmm.
on one audio track. So like the resampling just automatically does that, whereas drag and dropping it would have been two tracks.
Mm-hmm.
If
Okay.
that
I just feel like there's so many different ways to work with machine into whatever DAW you're using, or there's just, I mean, it's true about a lot of things, but it's the one thing I'm so curious about because I feel like I'm continually just trying to find the best way for me. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I recently like watched this tutorial too, and I didn't even really understand how to record like your MIDI into Ableton through Machine, if that makes sense.
okay.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're controlling the stuff that's in Machine. So like if you have like a Machine group, but you can
Okay.
record the like mini pattern in Ableton.
I've never done that.
Yeah, it's new for me, but that to me has been like a huge process improvement, especially for drums. So
Okay.
it's only
Right.
controlling one group, but it's like for drums, if you don't want just like a 4-bar pattern, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah, and it also makes arranging easier because like there's a lot of times where I want the drums to cut out, and usually I just automate like the track to go off, but then that way you just don't have a pattern in that bar. So
Way cool.
yeah.
I envy your knowledge for, first of all, machine, because you've been using it for a while, and
Yeah.
then working with Ableton. And I mean, it's like, it's so hard because like, I think when you're newer at things, you get like frustrated because like you just want to be able to understand how to use the software and how to do what in your head you're like, oh, there must be a way to do that. So it must feel so empowering, like when you're there and you're like, you've got your workflow, you've got your way, and there's nothing standing in between you, like just creating what you want to create.
Yeah, I think you get to a point where you don't think about it anymore. So it's definitely important to like take a step back and like be like, oh, I did learn a lot and I came a long way. So yeah, but this is about putting in the time. So
Yes, yes.
no way
What?
around.
And so you said like you use Splice a lot. Like, it's just, is there? I mean, you're just looking for samples on there, like even like drums, like everything, or like is there a certain thing you're looking for when you're creating? I'm just wondering.
I love Splice's categorization, right? Like
Okay.
I think the way that they categorize like BPM, key, like instrument, genre, all of that, it's really cool. So sometimes I have something specific in mind, like for example, like I really like twinkly noises or like jingle, and or sometimes I'll think of like a weird word and I'll just type the word into Splice, right? Um, but yeah, other times I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm like, oh, I want to make music, but I'm not actually
Yeah.
inspired. So I'll just like go through the charts or go through some of the packs, like
Uh-huh.
the companies that I tend to like. And I just like that you can preview all the sounds, and then all of a sudden you find a random sound. You're like, okay, I'm gonna run with that.
Yeah.
So I guess a little bit of both.
Do you use machine expansions at all? Like, have you ever used any of those, or
Yes, yes. I like Crystal Daggers. I really like Aquarius Dreams. And
Aquarius Earth?
Aquarius Earth, that one, yeah. And gosh, there's this. I'm blanking on the other one, but it's kind of like it's more of like a R&B beats type.
Meteoric Rise? No. Midnight Sunset. Is it an older
Um,
one or a newer one?
I think it's newer.
Uh,
I don't know if I'm gonna remember it, but yeah, I do use the Native Instruments expansions a lot.
okay.
I really like the way that they have a lot of patterns already set up, so like you could
Yes.
kind of hear how they sound together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
like
that's what's really helped me. Like I've mentioned this before, like the expansions, I just feel like because when like you're newer, it's hard to because like for example on Splice, there's like so many sounds, right? And so if you don't have something that sort of brings together what sort of may fit together, I think as somebody that's new, like it's hard really to like, you end up making a song that's just like it's like what the heck? Like why are you using like that snare with that kick with like and like what do so I feel like expansions sort of help um take the struggle like out of it just a little bit because the palette in which they've put together like makes sense if you're
mhm.
and but then when you get to the point where you go outside of there and you're using stuff from different things, like of course then it's even more amazing. Like you can be original with all the stuff, so it's cool.
Yeah. I also really like in the expansions like how there's like a lot of effects already, and it's like they sound mixed already, and it's you could kind of like learn things about mixing, like, oh, what made that you like you
Yeah.
open it up, you see the effects on that group, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought to put like a saturator on a snare, I don't know, something like that. And then you can even like switch the sample up and you still have that routing, those effects. So I think that's really cool about the expansions.
I think like machine itself like is just like such a huge like invention, like just technologically, like for music.
Mm-hmm.
It like to me at least, like I just feel like it does so many things that like the MPC wasn't capable of doing, and like
Yeah.
it's just sort of amazing. Like, and I know everyone's like a lot of times they poo-poo the software and they're like, oh, a machine's great, but like the software sucks, but it just I think it's amazing. Of course, there's always things that can be better with software, and I think like we've seen with like different releases, like things get better and there's new features that come. So like a 3.0, I have this feeling. I mean, I don't know anything, but I imagine like with 3.0, there's going to be some like big stuff that happens.
Yeah, yeah. I think eventually they might move into like the standalone to like kind of
Oh yeah.
try to compete with like MPC and Akai. But I think like I've been rocking with machines since like before they even had time stretching. Like, and
Hmm.
so they've just come so far, and like a lot of the new features they add are for free, and I always appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the audio with the loops, like that to me it was like a huge capability. And
Yeah.
I actually like the loop browsing in Machine better than Ableton. So,
Huh.
and like in Ableton's auto time warping is really good, but like I
Yeah.
really think Machine competes now.
Huh. That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
Um, what all right, I'm trying to we've talked about so much stuff. I'm like, okay, where do I so you've been making like how long have you making beats? Like so we talked like you've been using Ableton, you said, for like 14 years. I mean, is that how long
Yeah.
you've been making beats?
I think maybe a little bit longer than that because I was
Wow.
using GarageBand for maybe like a year,
Okay.
2 years before Ableton. Because I mean, if you back up a little bit, I was in like a like emo punk band when I was in
Uh-huh.
high school playing drums,
Okay.
and I really wanted to record, and so like that's kind of what pushed me into the computer music world because I wanted to record my like acoustic band essentially, or
Hmm.
it was like no digital instruments. And then from there, I'm like, oh, this is like a sequence. This is a whole sequence. They're like, how
Right.
do I use this? How do I use this? And I started using synths. So I think once I started going into the synth world is when I started like making beats, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess maybe like 16 years.
Wow, that's like
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
I
I'm like so jealous
know.
because like I like for so long, like I've DJ'd forever, like since I was like 22, and like I just like I always was trying actually before that, but like I'm like I bought Sony Acid, I bought like Cakewalk, I bought like I had Adobe Audition, or not Adobe, Cool Edit Pro rather, like just all these like like I was trying, but like I didn't really know any music theory. Like I played guitar since I was like 13, but like I didn't know what I was doing per se. Like you know, just like chords and knowing what like sounds good. But I had gotten a MIDI keyboard and I had these programs, and then I don't know, I just couldn't get over the hump, and it was really hard. So I like always think back like, oh, like what if I just stuck with it, you know? But I accept, you know what, everything for a reason. And here we are like over 20 years later, and it's like, okay, here I am now. So I can't be upset about what I've missed. But yeah, I mean, that's just incredible. Like thinking of having that much experience. Like, I mean, and I was speaking to a woman, Brie K Sounds, last night, and she's been like making beats for a long time. And yeah, I was saying to her, like, you know, her beats sound so polished and yours sound so polished too. And it's like, because when you have that experience, like those years under your belt, like you just like develop this like, you know, great innate sense of creating and putting, you know, the beats and the melodies and the chords and the pads and like the samples all together. Like, you know, somebody that's only been doing it for a year or two, you're just not going to have that same polished sound. And I think that's important for people to know, right? Because somebody can like, you know, listen to your beat and they're like, oh, you know, like I've been doing this for like 3 years, and like, why aren't I there yet? And, you know, it's like to just know, like, it takes time, you know, putting all those hours and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge proponent of like of talent not really getting you that far. Like it's really about, you know, the hours you put in like mastering your craft and like this concept of deliberate practice. And I really think like there's no substitute for like putting in the work, right? So like you could watch as many tutorials, and trust me, I've watched a million tutorials. I've learned so much, but I really think there's no substitute for like really just sitting down in your DAW and tinkering around. What does this button do? Like really knowing what it sounds like to your ear. And so that's, I think, the knowledge that I would probably impart is learned by doing.
And finishing songs.
Force yourself, even if it's not going to get released, like that. There's something about that last 10% that is like so painful, but so important. I mean, it's really like the difference between like good and great, you know?
Yeah. But I think you learn, at least I feel like I learned so much though, you know, at the final stages, like where I like, you know, I think like, okay, this is it. And I had, you know, I like put it through Lander and I listen in my car and I'm like, no, like this is not it, you know, like
the car test.
The car test is so important. But yeah, so I'm totally with you. And then, but learning so much from the final stretch, like, okay, well, what didn't sound right? Like, why didn't that sound right? Like, what could I do differently? That, you know? So yeah, I'm there right now with some hi-hats that I'm like struggling.
Oh, no. For me, like I found if I put a deadline, if I give myself a deadline, like I'm working on the hi-hats for 30 more minutes, and then after 30 minutes they're done, and then you bounce to audio, you don't look back, and usually a month from then you're never even gonna remember that you're tripping on hi-hats.
So. No, something went really bad. So I don't know. It's just the wrong. It was the hats were in like the set, but I'm just like listening to the beat that like fit it, and I'm like, these just don't fit, you know. So I gotta go back and find different ones.
I think that's a good point too. Is like sometimes you put like an hour into adding this new element, and like at a certain point you need to step back and be like, actually that element wasn't the right thing, and I'm just gonna mute it, and the song's better, even though you spent an hour on that. Like sometimes it's better to just take it out.
That's happened to me too, for sure. And that's a learning process. Yeah, that's like totally part of the whole learning process. So just gotta accept it. So what are some of your, like, do you have some plugins like that are like not, you know, machine native, like Native Instruments plugins that you use, that you like tell us a few that you like to use or you find that you're using, and like why?
I recently got Omnisphere too. Love it so much. It's such a deep plugin. Like you could only use that for the rest of your life and probably be fine. and I have keyscape as well. So like I said, I've been taking piano lessons, so I've been doing a lot of keys, and anything Rhodes is like, I love Rhodes. I love Wurlitzer, and then the pianos on keyscape sound great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those. I'm very hesitant to add new instruments to, because I used to be kind of like a plugin fiend. Like I had like this ridiculous plugin list, and then when I got a new computer a year ago, I like made the decision to really cull down my tools. So yeah, I'm really like only using Ableton, Native Instruments, and Spectrasonics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like Ableton, like I was saying this the other day too, like Ableton is just like really robust. I mean, that's a product that's been around for a really long time, and like so many of you know, the plugins like in there like are like the EQ, and there's a bunch of things, you know, that they're good. Like you don't necessarily need to go outside and like find yourself a different EQ or different compressor. Like there's just a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, I use EQ8. Like I used to use ProQ, and I love ProQ, but when, like I said, when I upgraded my computer, I made the decision. Like I had slates, I had waves. I didn't install any of them on my new computer, and I'm pretty much mixing in almost all Ableton mixing plugins. So like the glue compressor, I think is amazing.
Yeah, that is nice.
And it sounds great sidechains. EQ8, I'm pretty much on every single track, and then the utility plugin. I don't love the native reverb, but I do like Convolution Pro reverb, which is a Max device.
Okay.
But yeah, for like mixing, I'm very Ableton heavy, which I didn't used to be, but the CPU that you save by just being all Ableton mixing plugins, like I don't think I'm really trading quality, you know, so.
Yeah. I mean, based on what you're saying, like you've really gone to this place where you're working with like minimal stuff, because just like you've scaled down your tools and you're able to accomplish what you want to accomplish with what you have. Is there a piece of gear that you would like, that you know you would like, but I don't know, maybe you got to save up a little more for
Yeah,
it, or...
definitely. Oh my god, I always have a gear list.
Okay.
But I think right now I really want a field recorder, because I want to be able to use like recordings.
Oh yeah.
The Zoom H6. And then the other thing too is like I have a UAD Apollo, but I really want an Arrow because it's like bus powered and more portable.
Huh.
So those are the two things on my gear list. I used to have a microphone. I sold it, but I think I've been looking at the Slate VMS recently. That's probably like further down the line, but yeah, definitely missing having a mic too.
Do you sing?
No, I don't. But I do, like, I know how to get around like in Pro Tools. So if I needed to record vocals, I could. And so it's kind of like, I don't know. I think I purposely got rid of my mic for a while because I wanted to like work on my own stuff. But now I think I'm ready to like open back up. It's kind of hard to collaborate without a mic. So.
Yeah. So Pro Tools. So how did you get into Pro Tools?
Out of necessity. I was like collaborating with a couple vocalists, and like they brought me into the studio, and I kind of like had to learn Pro Tools.
Okay.
And I did like a lynda.com like free trial, and I just like binged on all these. Like I'm not good at Pro Tools at all. Like,
but you learned enough.
Yeah, and also like sitting in the studio next to an engineer, right? Like you just kind of like watch what they're doing, ask them a few questions here and there. So I've been in a few sessions where I was like able to talk to like a real human, which helped.
That's cool. This woman, Brie K Sounds, who I was talking about, like she's Pro Tools. Like that's what she started in, like back in the day, and she's still using it. And I was like, and she just started a YouTube channel, and she's like got like 78 subscribers, and I'm like, keep going, like make tutorials, because like I haven't seen any women out there like helping people with Pro Tools except for Shane McMullen. Like I know she's doing stuff, but that's from a and she made beats, like don't get me wrong, but I know she's like doing a lot of audio engineering and stuff now, and the woman I was talking to, like she's making, you know, a lot of beats. So
that's awesome,
because there's not a lot of people. I mean, I don't see a lot of people talking about Pro Tools in terms for beat making, but
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I personally, like, I would only go to Pro Tools for vocal recording, but I have talked to people that use it for beat making.
yeah.
Um, I guess that's like my one. I love Ableton. My one complaint is I wish they would add some sort of like vocal copying slash take comping,
Hmm.
the way that Pro Tools and Logic has. Because
Okay.
right now, if you have like multiple vocal takes, you can't like collapse them all into one track and like choose the best like word from each. Like it's very tedious to record a
Huh.
vocal in Ableton.
Okay. I don't know anything about that, so I will trust you on that. Um, but that's a good point. Maybe it's something that they'll improve. But it's sort of interesting because you look at like what people are using. I mean, people who are using Pro Tools like have very seemingly different needs than like somebody that's like creating electronic music on Ableton generally.
Yeah,
Just
although the line is blurring more and more. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's true. I say
I think
generally.
it has to be a conscious choice on their part because they've added so many other capabilities. Like I'm sure they could have added the capability at some point,
Yeah.
but it's called Ableton Live. Like I think the the whole point behind it was to enable people to like perform electronic music live.
Hmm.
So maybe it's not supposed to be like a vocal recording suite, but I know a lot of people get around that and record vocals in Ableton. So.
So do you get out to see live music? I mean, you're in a really awesome place for doing that. Like, do you get out?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as I should, but I actually have tickets to see some kids that I've been listening to on SoundCloud for a long time. Ian Ewing, Louis Vuitton, and Where's Alex tomorrow at the El Rey. So
Okay.
I do try to. I mean, I like seeing how different people do electronic music live. It's really cool because everyone has all these different setups. I think my favorite so far has been Mira Masa. He
Oh,
had
uh-huh.
yeah, he had like kind of like a live drum setup,
Huh,
like a live electronic drums, and that was really,
that's
really cool.
cool.
Yeah.
What do you do? Have you or dabbled or do you do any kind of like live performance stuff?
Yeah. I have dabbled. I've dabbled in like kind of supporting my vocalist friend
Okay.
Glory Days.
Uh-huh.
And I did it on keyboard and it was like so nerve-wracking. Like I was
Uh-huh.
so afraid I was gonna hit a wrong key. Like it's a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
like if I was doing music full time, I'd be more likely to focus more of my energy on that. But I think because I have like kind of a finite amount of time, like
Right.
I'm a composer at heart, and like that's I think
Yeah.
where I like to spend my time.
Yeah. And it's like tough. Like, I mean, the people you see in videos like doing that stuff on YouTube, you're like you watch and you're like, oh, that looks so easy, but you don't realize exactly how hard that is, how much rehearsal time like that took. Like launching, I'm thinking about launching clips even, right?
Mhm.
If it's like a clip based sort of live performance, like the whole setup, launching the clips, like organizing the clips prior, like there's a lot involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just like sometimes when I shoot an Instagram video, it's like that it takes a lot of prep work, because yeah, you have to like design the live set, you have to like
Yeah.
you said, figure out which clips go to which button and make sure that you hit the right button. Yeah, it's not like there's zero groundwork.
And you do like a fair amount of those types of Instagram videos like I've seen. Like
Yeah, I try because it's like I don't know. I like that I play instruments. I've been playing instruments all my life, so I guess I like showcasing that like I don't want to say, oh, it's not sample based music, but I want to be like, oh, I'm playing this live. Like I played this instrument. So
yeah.
I think the video format's good for showing that.
I mean, have you for Instagram and social media, like do you have any like good tips for people? Like it seemed like, for example, like your SoundCloud, like you
Mhm.
have a lot of followers on SoundCloud. Has that been organic? Have you been like growing that and like strategic with hashtags, or I'm just curious.
So a lot of my followers came from I did a follow to download gate for all my tracks.
Okay.
I don't think people use SoundCloud as much anymore, but like I was really active on SoundCloud like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so like all my songs I had like a follower to download gate through this site called Tone Den,
Yes.
TONEDEN.
I'm
Yeah.
familiar.
And so anyone that wanted to like download my song, I offered it for free in exchange for following me on SoundCloud. So
Okay.
I think that was a huge driver of my SoundCloud followers. Now my Spotify listeners is almost exclusively chill hop because I signed Sandalwood to chill hop. And in exchange for like 50%, they playlisted me.
Okay.
And from there, I got 2 Spotify editorial playlist placements. And so that made significantly more than I would have made 100% releasing on my own.
And how was that like through SoundCloud? Like, did you submit your music to Chill Hop through SoundCloud, or did they find your song or?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I was actually like fortunate enough to be approached by Chill Hop to be a part of their like first compilation release. So
Okay.
I've released with Chill Hop before. And so when I approached them like around September of last year, they had already known me and I kind of already had a relationship with them.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I guess I kind of got lucky with that one.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it being lucky. Like, I think that there are certain things in life where like you're just in the right place at the right time, in the sense that don't call it luck. Like, it's just that, you went down this track, you were creating, your path led you to create a certain type of music, and you were just early to the game, and like, so there are some opportunities there, and thereafter. And then I think that like now it's just like so noisy, right? There's like just everybody's creating lo-fi, and it's become this like huge thing.
I know. It's never in a million years if you told me 3 years ago that lo-fi was gonna blow up the way it did. It's just, it didn't make sense to me. Like wouldn't have made sense because to me it was like we were producers making music for other producers. Like everyone on your track, like you knew them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they created the same type of music. Like everyone that would comment on SoundCloud. So it's really cool to see like a lot of those same names that you've been interacting with, like like Harris Call and Ian Ewing, like they're just killing it on Spotify. And it's really cool to see like a lot of the people that have been around for a while, like get a lot of, credit.
And like, I'm just curious to go back, like, so like what brought you into like that genre in particular? Like, because you're talking about like emo punk, and like what was that? When you started making electronic music, was it something that you sort of picked up on and you're like, hey, I like this vibe, like this is where I want to head with my music? I'm just curious, like, if you can remember how you got there.
I think I definitely, when I started making music on the computer, I made like 2 very different genres, right? Like I made electronic, like super electronic, so it was really electronic, and then I also made like really hip hop, like just hip hop beats, almost like boom bap beats. So I don't know, it must have been like what I was listening to at the time. I can't even think like why I was making boom bap. It doesn't make sense now looking back. But so I had kind of this like boom bap folder already.
Yeah.
And then I started like going around on the internet on like Reddit and all these different like producer forums. And then that's how I kind of got to SoundCloud. So then I'm on SoundCloud and I'm looking up boom bap hip hop beats, and I'm like, oh, what's like lo-fi, and it didn't. And I just like loved the like crunchy, like, and the vinyl in the background. And I was like, wow, this stuff's really cool. So I think it was natural to go from boom bap to lo-fi. But at that time, it was like not. It was just a SoundCloud movement, and I just thought it was so cool. And that's, I guess, I got into it through SoundCloud.
That's cool. And now it's like you have like, because the other thing I was thinking about, like in terms of like what you're using, you're like, okay, I dumped all these plugins and I'm like just trying to keep it simple. And like now you have people who are out there like buying guitar pedals, and I mean that's been around for a while, obviously, with electronica, or electronic music, and also DJs. I mean that's been a popular way to use effects for years for DJs. But now you're seeing like all these producers who doing like hip hop stuff, like trying to bring those elements in with like just so much gear. And like it's cool to see you like stripped down, You're not using any guitar pedals, are you?
No, I don't have guitar pedals. No, I think like I've learned like you can do a lot of stuff with, like, for example, Guitar Rig. I guess technically that's like an inbox guitar
Yeah.
pedal. I do use Guitar Rig a
Yeah,
lot,
everybody
actually.
does, so that's
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned how to do most of the things in the box.
Do you do your own mastering? Like, is that your thing, or do you have somebody that you have that masters your stuff for you before you release it on Spotify?
Yeah, my EP was mixed partially and completely mastered by Harris Cole.
Okay.
But I have mastered before. I think I want to move into that direction. The only thing is, like, I don't have like a treated room, so I feel like I can't be the final listen. Like, I don't trust my own ears, or I guess I don't trust my own acoustic environment. But yeah, I just bought L2 Pro L2. So yeah, I'm capable of mastering, but I'm a little wary. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of both.
It's just like I was thinking about the other day, because it's like on one hand it's like I'm no, I mean I'm no my ears are not those of like audio engineers, right, to master, but it's like so I use Lander, like, full transparency, so that's like, and it's great for me now because like I just feel like it's manageable, right? If I want to like get something like on SoundCloud or whatever, it's manageable. But like the just like sort of like the catch-22, it's like if you want to be releasing like a lot of music, because that seems to be the push nowadays, just like get it out, not crap, like good stuff, don't sit on it. But like then that catch-22, like, wanting to make sure that you've had somebody with like professional ears or better ears than yourself, just make sure, like, mix it and master it and make sure it's like polished and it sounds good. I think that's a struggle because it's
Yeah,
expensive to pay somebody.
it is. It
It
is. Yeah,
adds up, let's say,
yeah,
per song.
yeah, yeah. I think it's good. I think it's good to learn how to do those things, but like there's just no substitute for like having someone else's opinion, because sometimes you're just so in the weeds that you can't,
Yeah.
see the whole picture. That was not the right idiom, but yeah, I think that I'm wary to do it all myself, just because I
Right.
think there's a lot of value in getting someone else's opinion, especially a professional. It's worth, to me, I think it's worth paying like the $100 per song or however much
Mhm.
for mastering.
What any advice for like for women in general, right? So I mean, we always and maybe there is none, but I mean, generally you're talking about like a lot of the other like producers in the space, like when you were on SoundCloud, like Lo-Fi Days, like it sounds like they were mostly men.
Mhm.
Did you ever like face any kind of like, I don't know, like drama or issues, or and it may be really positive and you say, oh, it's been positive, I mean, but any kind of tips that you may have for like younger women who feel a little bit intimidated when they might be in that space amongst so many men?
Yeah, I think well, I think as women, I think we can have special considerations, especially if it comes to like going to a session with a guy, like just you and a guy. Like I could see like how there'd be a lot of, like, there has been situations where like people don't consider that you wouldn't feel safe in that situation because they don't relate.
Yeah.
So I think it's a reality, but like women in this industry, like they do have to have that extra consideration of safety that men don't have. I think another thing that's more on a lighter note, like I find it very entertaining that a lot of people will assume that I don't have technical knowledge. Um, and when I probably have more technical knowledge than a lot of people, just because I have so many years under my belt. But I guess my advice would be like, don't let it get under your skin. Like just stay humble and like let your work speak for itself. Like arm yourself with knowledge, like keep learning. Don't let what other people think deter you. Like I really think like, yeah, just keep focusing on like your own craft, and like at a certain point you'll get so like confident in your knowledge that like it's not going to bother you. And there's so many like talented women in this industry. It's crazy. Like when I hear people say like, oh, there's no female producers, like, yes, there is. There's no female engineers. Yes, there is. You just have to look for them, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think that's the key, like looking for them, because they are out there.
Yeah.
It's just finding them. And I don't know, I just so and maybe that's just like they're out there, but like maybe they're just not out there enough, you know, in the sense that like there's just not enough publicity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I know like for example, like the Grammys in general, like is making a big push to make sure that more women are included in projects, both on, you know, like on the back end, right? Like women engineers, women songwriters, like, but I mean, based on, you know, this last year's like Grammys, like there was a big push on like making sure women were involved in the Grammys.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
the numbers are shocking. Like only 2%
yeah,
of producers, like that's crazy. Like, and
yeah,
that can't be right. That can't be right. Like that can't be representative of like the true number of producers. I think it's more of a opportunity gap. I think
yeah,
I think it was I was watching an interview with Linda Perry and she made the point where it's like, you know, the industry, they already have these relationships involved and you just keep hitting up the same person because you have this relationship.
right.
But as an industry, we need to make the decision to like in a way have affirmative action because 2%, that's unacceptable.
Right. And that's what they're working on, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's like the goal. Like that is what like, you know, now is the goal. Like, you know, at least make a point of, you know, if you have a project, like considering a certain amount of women for this role. And I
And
think
no one's saying lower your standards, right? Like
no,
it's just
absolutely not. Yeah.
yeah, it's like there's just as high standards.
Yeah.
That's what people need to I think open their mind about is like no one's asking anyone to lower their standards. It's just a matter of like doing a little bit more work to invite more opportunities.
And that's so interesting too, because I know when I was talking to Shane, like one of the things like she said she get complimented on like being like a woman, you know, and tracking vocals is like, you know, people say to her like you're so meticulous, you know, and like to the point where like it's almost like she has these qualities like potentially as a woman with like woman's ears. Not to say that guys aren't meticulous, like okay, like I know somebody's gonna leave a comment, but let me rephrase this, that as a woman you may have strengths that like men don't may not have. I think just
Yeah.
in general, like we're men and women are very different, so of course you're going to bring different strengths to the table or a different approach, and that in and of itself can be like just a really great advantage to, you know, to have. But like you're saying, if Linda Perry's saying like, you know, just the same people get approached time after time, clearly that's part of the issue.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the point you made is really insightful. I have a button that says inclusion enriches solutions. And I think that it's true. Like, I mean, the more people you have in the room, the more like different viewpoints, like the better the final product's going to be because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. What are you listening to? So we've talked about like your music a lot. What are you listening to nowadays? Like
Um, there's this song called Morrow by 070 Shake. She's like kind of she's a hip hop artist. I love hip hop, so I'll just say like I love hip hop. I listen to mostly hip hop.
okay.
So 070 Shake, she's like big on my list. I've always been like a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. But then also really digging the new Billie Eilish, like not usually a pop person, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the arrangement and like Phineas, her producer, her brother producer, I mean, I think he's brilliant. And I really like what they're bringing to music. It's like a lot of dynamic range, and
Mm-hmm.
I like that the songs are not mastered super loud. It's like this like kind of quiet, delicate, melodic. Yeah, so yeah, I mean I listen to all types of stuff, but that's like top on my list right now.
Okay. Way cool. What motivates you and keeps you going, right? So it's been like a little bit of a long haul here. Right? You've been doing it for a while. You said recently getting your full-time job, you know, getting the full-time job sort of like made you just like made your music go smoother?
Yeah.
Like,
Unexpected.
like what keeps you motivated though, like in general, you know, after working a day at work, like, you know, what keeps you motivated to come home, make a new song?
I just love it. I don't know. It's innate. I'm passionate about it. Like I've picked up every instrument I could since I was a little kid. Like, and I love learning. I love taking piano lessons, and like I can feel that I'm getting better. Like I didn't used to like be able to listen to like play along to a song. Now I can like turn on a song, I could play along to it, and like just like I don't know. I guess it's like intrinsically motivated to like learn. But I don't know. I just love music. Like I just love it all.
Okay. And that's what most people say.
Yeah, I
You know,
guess it's
it's like,
cliche, but it's true.
you're passionate about what you're doing. You're like, that just keeps you doing it.
Yeah,
What do you have like a 1 year goal and a 5 year goal of where you would like to see yourself in your music?
it's so nuts because like the reception of my EP that I released in October like far exceeded any goal that I ever set for myself. Like I actually didn't even think I would ever hit 1 million plays, and like it's cool to see like I think for me now though, I've decided that like metric based goals are not what fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make music that like resonates like with me emotionally. And so I think like I don't have like a 1 or 5 year goal, but I want to work with a vocalist um, that I think will help me tell a story that you can't tell purely through instrumental music.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like. It's like a really amorphous goal right now. But yeah, I just want to make something that emotionally resonates with me. That's it.
Do you do like writing, like lyric writing as well, like songwriting?
I used to do it more when I was younger. If I'm in a session, like I think I'm more of an editor. I think I'm a good editor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more melody rather than words. But
Okay.
I think I have something to contribute in that arena.
Okay. And that's really cool, like, because you have this like a lot of, okay, bedroom producers, let's say, okay, like haven't had the opportunity to, you know, have a session with a vocalist to collaborate in that sense and create a song with like vocals. So, and it was interesting because I heard you say like you sort of had to like step away from that because like you needed to like just do your music. And now like coming back to that, um, like I can see that as something like being like really different than you just sitting in front of your, you know, right here and like creating a song. Like, when you do that, do you like go in with some ideas for the singer, like that you've like worked on, or, you know, like is their style? Like, what's your approach?
I've found that I always want to bring beats into the session, but 9 out of 10 times the singer wants you to create a beat on the spot.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes you can get around that by like having a chord progression in mind and creating the beat on the spot in a way. But yeah, it sucks because, well, I don't want to say it sucks. I used to think it sucked because I would come to sessions with beats and then they wouldn't get used. I think now I've adjusted my approach. Like I said, like I'll come with a concept in mind instead of a fully polished beat. Um, I don't know. I think it's different now because I have had that opportunity to step back and kind of become more confident in my abilities. Like, I think before I was really confident in my abilities, it was really intimidating
Mm-hmm.
to create a beat on the spot. But now it's like, I don't have a shortage of chord progressions because I've just learned so many that I think, I think it's just a matter of like really like arming yourself with knowledge, I guess, for me at least.
That makes sense. I'm like so excited that I had the opportunity to talk to you and like hear your story. Cause like I like haven't talked to anyone with like the breadth of your like background, and then like working with like artists and like really just being in there, man. Like, so it's awesome. Like I love like hearing all this information, and I think it's really helpful for other, you know, people who be watching this too, like just hearing like these stories and then hearing your story, and because everybody's story is so different, Like, and that's what's so cool. Like, I just talking to so many different people, and maybe like both beat makers, but like everyone's got a different way of like getting where they are and where they want to go. And but thank you.
I'm really glad we got a chance to talk to you. I support what you're doing so much. Like, I think you're going back to what we were saying earlier. I think you're really highlighting that like there are a lot of like really talented women in the industry, and so I really appreciate you giving women a platform.
Yeah, thanks. And like, so, and people keep thanking me, and I'm just like, I was saying like, to Bree the other night, I was like, it's, to me, when I looked, I was looking on YouTube, and I don't know everything on YouTube because it's like huge, but like, I wasn't finding any platform like this. Yeah. And I was like, what? I was like, how can that like that not exist? I was very surprised. And then, I was like, all right, well, I have to do it. I don't know what's going to happen. Even right now, like these videos are not getting tons of views, the podcasts themselves, getting like a lot of like, just like great compliments, but it's just going to take time. And I'm curious to see where this like leads to. As I was talking to my wife the other day, and she's like, yeah, that's sort of wild. Like, you started doing this, and who knows what'll happen. Maybe there'll be like a documentary. And I'm like, well, that would be freaking cool. Like traveling across like the world, basically talking just to like a ton of women.
That's awesome. I think it's very well timed. It's perfectly timed. So
yeah. It's crazy. But thank you. So like, I'm going to put all of your links to everything below the description of this video. So for everyone who's watching this, I'll put everything down there so that everyone can find you, find your music, find you on Spotify, find you on SoundCloud. And I wish you like the best in this next year. Like, who the heck knows what's going to happen, right? I mean, you get those placements, and I don't know, things will start getting more crazier for you.
I know. Maybe I won't have a full-time job anymore.
But wait, you need that job to make sure that you keep making great music.
True. It's always a balance.
Cut your hours back a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I have student loans. But we'll see.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know how those are. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. It was really good talking to you.